Yep, karate duty today. So what I've got here is a 2018 Pacifica E-Hybrid, as you can see here. This thing is like an overgrown version of my old C-Max. It's got room for 7 underneath these car seats, and as you can see, it's been lived in. But it does everything I need it to do and more. And you can see it's still plugged in and charging, but 34 miles range, almost a full gas tank. So total range of 456 between the two of them, which is not bad at all. And nicest thing about it is that the vast majority of our driving on a daily basis is just done with a level 2 charging system, or just charging it overnight on the level 1, which is absolutely fine. So I'm going to go run out for a few minutes, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I like about it and what I don't. So you guys have been busting my butt about trying to fit 3 kids into my old Chevy Volt that I have. I say old, but it's a current model that they have out, current generation, that they are now discontinuing. And yeah, to be fair, fitting 3 growing boys in there, now it doesn't make much sense, but back when I got it, they were mostly toddlers, and it was pretty easy to fit, you know, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old in there. It wasn't a big issue. Now that I've got an 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old, it's a little bit more of a difficulty to fit them all in there. My wife's car, she had a RAV4, and I wanted to buy something else that was electric, because for the most part she's just driving back and forth to work, or driving the kids around to be it soccer, typical soccer mom, or taekwondo, that type of thing. So the after errand stuff, it's all local. There's no reason to have a minivan that gets crap mileage to do daily tasks like driving around like that. So I was looking for something that was electric. My wife didn't want to go all electric, so that ruled out getting a Model X. So I was looking for something that could fit 7, because that's one of her only requirements, a 7-seat vehicle. And 2, my requirement was that it could manage, you know, going 30-something miles on battery. And that's exactly what they engineered this Chrysler Pacifica for. You can see from the dashboard right there that it's getting 44.5 miles per gallon roughly. And a little bit more than half of it has been, double. Yeah, so more than half of the miles that we've put on this car since we got it in March have been electric. The 976 miles, well, that was driving back and forth to New York 4 times, I want to say, for holidays, a wedding, a trip to the Intrepid, so on and so forth. We were back and forth to New York quite often. So that's the beauty of this car. That's the exact use case of this car. When you need it, you have a V6 and a big honking gas tank. It cost me $30 to fill this thing, and I only need to fill it when I go very far. So if I'm driving, you know, a couple hundred miles, I've got the gas as a backup, and on a daily basis, we're just using the electricity. The other thing that they engineered this car for was to be simple. They knew that it was going to be driven by distracted parents that are dealing with their kids in the back, and they wanted to make it so that you really didn't need to think about what the car is doing. So in a lot of ways, this operates similar to a C-Max, but there's no mode selection button. You have, if you look at the dashboard where it says power, if you, I'm in park at the moment, but if you hit the gas pedal on that, you'll see that the power goes up to the top. When it goes to the top, the gas motor kicks in. So the goal is to basically drive it around so that you never really go over that. And for doing, you know, around town driving, that type of thing, it's fine. It drives about as fast as you need it to drive, and it does what it needs to do. On the highway, this thing has passing power due to the V6. I mean, you put your foot down, the V6 goes, and you're gone. And that's pretty impressive considering the weight of this thing. I believe it's well in excess of 4,000 pounds, so it's a heavy car. Where is that weight? Well, that weight is stored underneath these seats right here. Normally that would be where the stow and go would be. If you've been following this vehicle, you're probably aware of that. They just replaced the stow and go with a couple battery packs. How that'll work, I don't know. But for the time being, it's been fine. I'm getting the advertised mileage out of this that they said that you'd be getting. I think today, with it 66 degrees earlier, I had 34 miles range showing on the battery, which was awesome. And I've been getting about what they say on the battery, if not a little bit better. So the guessometer that they have on this works. It does everything that it's supposed to do. Technology-wise, this thing is very... it's responsive. It just works. Like if I plug in my phone and go to CarPlay, it's way faster than what I had in my Chevy Volt. From what I understand, this entire system is all Linux-based. So it's just like having an Android phone or something along those lines. There's extra apps for it. The seats are both heated. Oh, that's driver's heat. I don't want that. But the seats are heated and ventilated. So you can have air conditioning on the seats. The steering wheel is nice and heated, very comfortable. Everything, like there's leather stitching in here. It's pretty nice. As you would expect, you know, from a $48,000 car. Now, that brings me to my biggest problem with this. I'm a sports car kind of person, and I have been. I've been forced to deal with family life, and because of that, I've been buying relatively boring cars until I got the Volt. That's been entertaining to drive. But it's really annoyed me trying to buy a minivan that you could plug in, and this is the only one on the market, but for a reasonable price. I did not want to pay $48,000 for a car that was going to be boring, was going to be a family hauler. Despite the fact that it has all the utility and everything else that I needed, this really fits the mark. Normally when you lease an EV, they end up rolling the tax incentives into the cap cost, so it's a cap cost reduction. Dodge didn't want to do that, or Chrysler. They didn't want to do that, and it annoyed me. I went to several different dealerships. They all gave me the same spiel. Everybody had payments that were what I felt was excessive, and I just didn't want to pay that. So we went to the aquarium one day, and down the street from the aquarium there was a Chrysler dealer. I looked on their lot, and they had one of them sitting there from the previous year. It was a 2018. I'm making this in 2019. So I called them and told them what my requirements were, and they ended up selling me this for $35,000. So for a little bit cheaper than the top-of-the-line gas-only model, I was able to get this fairly loaded. The only thing that it was missing was the sunroof that they have on this, which is pretty awesome. It's a $1,500 option, but I'll take a $10,000 savings over having a sunroof any day. Everything about this is on point. The cruise control that it has, it's got an adaptive cruise that works way better than it does on my Volt. If anything blows, like a bag or something blows in front of that thing while it's on, it's gonna like suddenly slam on the brakes. And I'm always concerned about using that in traffic due to somebody rear-ending me when the car abruptly slows down. And then to make matters worse, it never really speeds up quickly. It does it very slowly and allows other traffic to get in front of me. So if I'm used to following somebody that's fairly stable, well, that could let somebody in front that may not be. They may swerve, whatever else. It'll drive me nuts. So I generally speaking, I paid for AAC on the Volt, but I don't use it because it's just not, it's not very good at what it does. This, on the other hand, the adaptive cruise on this thing is awesome. It follows at a decent pace. It manipulates the throttle appropriately, and it does what it's supposed to do. The lane keep assist, not as keen on. I find it to be a little bit on the squirrely side. It's probably better in the Volt than it is on this, but it does a decent job. You definitely want to keep your hands on the wheel, and you want to not be afraid to correct the lane keep assist on this. But other than that, I mean, it's great. In the back of these seats, I will have to show you, but there are infotainment systems. These things are connected. So my kids, if they forget their tablets or their phones or whatever, they can play each other. This one's folded down, but they can play each other on that, which is pretty awesome. And then there are HDMI ports on this, as well as, you know, headphones. It comes with a wireless set of headphones and a remote control for it. There's also an HDMI input. So if they wanted to connect a video game console or anything else, they can. Furthermore, there is a DVD system or Blu-ray system that they have down here, which you can also connect another device via USB, and that will go to the rear access video panels. Haven't figured out how to go about doing that yet, but it's there. It's an option. Storage in this thing is everywhere, as one would expect. I mean, you have your umbrella pockets down here. You can store a bottle over here. My wife has one of her water bottles in this huge pit, but if you had a ginormous purse, you can use that. There are also USB charge ports there, a 12-volt DC, if it ever opens. So what they used to have, you know, for cigarette lighters is down there. And then you have storage. I've been having her use this for trash, but she's doing a good job about keeping it in bags. They have changed things, which I don't think anybody even uses money anymore. But they have changed things in there for that. There are... She's got more trash in there. I've been telling her to keep this car clean because I like my vehicles clean, and I told her if it looks the way her RAV4 looked, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So she's been doing a decent job of at least keeping it out of sight for me. And yeah, so no complaints there. The car also has a lot of the things that I liked about my... Shut this thing down. A lot of the things that I liked about my C-Max, like the fact that if you have the key in your pocket, you can just swipe under the door and gain access. So if you're going around and you're loading, you know, small children, you can just, you know, do that. You know, have the children in your hands, wave your foot underneath. You don't have to worry about, you know, shifting the weight, putting one down. Same thing with groceries. The back door opens up the same way. It's got little grocery tabs over here for hanging the bags on it, and a nice, really deep well. So we just went to Disney in this thing, and well, JFK, to go to Disney, and we had all of our baggage in here, and it all fit no problem. With all the seats up. If I ever needed more space, you know, I could just throw this seat forward, and it will actually fall into this and have a nice flat little area in the back of the car. You can fit plywood in here, sheetrock, whatever else you need to do as well. So from a dad perspective, if you don't have a pick-em-up truck, this will probably do. More 12-volt access, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I did not want to make a video on this until such a time as I was able to get the experience of driving it for an extended period of time. My wife's out in California right now, so that gave me several days with it, and it's nice. It drives smooth. The one thing I will say is you feel the weight when you go over a speed bump, and part of that is due to the wheelbase. I mean, this is a long vehicle, so you have the front wheels go down, and then the weight of that compresses the suspension. It can be a little bit unnerving. It's a big, heavy car, but on the highway, when you're driving down normal streets, you don't really notice it. It's comfortable. All in all, I like it. You know, one of the other weird little things, and this is probably the last one, but if you look up there, there's a little tiny mirror. So you have your rear view mirror, and then you have this one. This one, you can see the entire back of the car. So if you needed to have eyes behind your head, like all mothers inherently do, it's a good way to do it. I like it. But yeah, It has everything I need, nothing I don't need. My wife likes it, and she didn't want to. She wanted to have a SUV. And from everything I understand, men like the utility of a minivan, even though there's nothing cool about them. But they like the utility of this, and women seem to like SUVs more than anything, and that's what they're being marketed towards. This thing, though, it does everything it needs to do. It's not overly engineered. It just does what it's supposed to do. It's a minivan that hauls your family around as economically as possible, and is getting, I think, 44.5 miles per gallon at present, the equivalent of that. So with all said and done, I'm really liking this, and I apologize for not getting this out any sooner, but like I said, I really wanted a couple thousand miles worth of experience of driving it before I put my thoughts to paper, or in this case, video. Anyway, thanks all for watching. Comments, whatever, below, and we'll go from there. I'll talk to you. FLJ out.